Hello, I'm Sitaly, and in this video I'm going to break down how to draw a human being into simple basic steps. I have been interested in art since I was very little and have lately been practicing my poses and facial expressions to make my art come more alive. I prefer traditional media over digital art, but I have been dabbling in a little bit of digital art lately also. When I draw, I use all the steps that I'll be showing you today. Sometimes I may use them interchangeably, usually depending on the pose I plan to do, but today we are just going to start with a simple standing there pose. Most of my drawings are done on a whim, but sometimes I like to use references, including books written by awesome people like Christopher Hart. This book I have is called Human Proportions. I would recommend his books to all artists as they are immensely helpful and they teach a lot. This book is very detailed and very helpful, but in my case I managed to break the structure down a little more than this, and that way it was just easier for me. My style is looser and more cartoony. What I really like in Mr. Hart's drawings, though, is that he uses lines of motion, so I took the idea of these lines of motion and I broke down the body structure even more. What I use now is simply just a bunch of lines and circles to create a human. So now that I've explained all this, we can begin at step 1. First, draw a circle at the top of the page. You want to be careful not to put it too low, and it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. Because if you put it too low, then you run out of room for the rest of the body. I don't know how many drawings I have that it's just been like cut off at the ankles because I ran out of room. But you also want to leave room above so that they have hair, so you don't want to just like put it at the top of the page. Otherwise you're going to like cut off their forehead. So usually after this is kind of part 2 of step 1. You're going to round off the face like this, and then this just gives you a general idea of how big the head is going to be, and then you know where to put the neck later on. And of course, depending on what or who you're drawing, this face shape can be changed later on. So step 2, you're going to draw another circle right below it, but not touching it because you want room for the neck. And then step 3, you're going to draw a circle for the hips. And depending on the character you're drawing, the size of these 3 circles and their lengths in between will definitely differ, so make sure to keep that in mind when you're drawing. Step 4, you're going to give the chest Mickey Mouse ears, and those will be your shoulders. Step 5, you're going to do 2 more, this is about the same size, maybe a little smaller, for the knees. And then 6, 7, and 8, ankles, elbows, and the elbows are usually right in between where the chest and the hips are. And then you're going to have wrists. And then what I usually do, because this is just a really basic structure, is I draw like these little triangle shapes for hands and feet, and then I build up off of that later on. So that is steps 1 through 9, and then lastly but certainly not least is step 10. These are the lines of motion, and since this character really is just standing there and is very rigid, and all of these lines are practically going to be straight lines. So what I do first is I go from the chin. Her spine is straight, so it's going to go straight down to the bottom of this circle. and that's the spine, and she's just standing up tall, so it's not, and these are all in line, so it's not like curved or anything. And then you're going to go from the shoulder to the elbow to the wrist on both sides, and then you're going to take from right above the knee, and you're going to go down to the knee, to the ankle, just like that. And sometimes I'll even like curve it upward just to kind of show a little more of the structure. And that's it. That is the complete basic structure of a human being. And this one looks a little bit more feminine because I use circles, and women are known to have more of an hourglass figure. So if you want your drawing to have a masculine figure, then you can do the same exact thing. Again, circle for head, and then you can also do square face shape. And then what I do is I give them more of a boxed structure, and then you'll still do the same thing, circles. And then I also give it, the hips are boxed, and everything else is the same, but when you do it this way, he's going to have short legs because I ran out of room. When you do it this way, see how I changed up the way I did it a little bit? It's just, I'm going faster, so yeah. So now you have a more masculine figure, and it's more boxy. So those are your two basic structures, and this is kind of a step 11, but I didn't count it as one of the basic structure steps because I count it as building up onto this structure. So now that I have my finished structure, I'm going to build onto it. Like, I'm going to actually give these hands fingers, and I'm going to give the body an outline. So I'm going to start like right here, and I'm going to go inwards toward the knees and back out. So it has muscle, so it's not just a stick figure on your page. So I used to, when I used to draw people, I would completely forget, like on somebody's arm, it would go in, then back out again, then in. And so my person would be so stiff and strange looking because they'd have like straight legs and it's really confusing when they have straight arms, straight everything, and that's a terrible example, but you want your figure to have curves, even the guy figures, because arms aren't straight. You have muscle. Everybody has a little bit of muscle, and that builds up on top of the bones, and that's where this like human proportions comes in, because he helps show you each piece and part of this. So yeah, that is your basic structure, and now that I've kind of explained it, I am going to take this, we are going to turn the page, and I am going to draw both a boy and a girl using those structures but different poses, and just write in the comments when you guess who they are, and thank you so much for watching.